Our nation has come to a time for choosing, not between health and sickness, but between tyranny and liberty, authoritarianism and autonomy. So which way, America? It's time for Hold the Line.
My message couldn't be simpler. It's time to hunker down. It's time to cancel everything. And if it isn't essential, don't do it. Don't meet up with others outside your household. Don't host a gathering. Don't attend a gathering. And following our targeted safer at home order, if you're able to stay home, stay home.
It's time to cancel everything. You heard them say it, right? Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. That was Mayor Eric Garcetti announcing a new stay-at-home order for the city of Los Angeles. It's the city's most stringent lockdown order to date, stating, quote, all persons living within the city of Los Angeles are hereby ordered to remain in their homes. In case you were wondering, that's just a form of citywide house arrest. The order also requires businesses to stop all in-person operations, with a handful of exceptions, including gas stations and grocery stores, bars, restaurants, playgrounds, theaters, all closed, however. As many small business owners will likely tell you, that's ruinous, absolutely ruinous for them. The order continues. All public and private gatherings of any number of people from more than one household are prohibited. He wasn't kidding when he said he was going to cancel a lot of stuff. It's not a suggestion. It's now official policy in LA County. Friends, it is a time for choosing. Let's be very clear about this. Los Angeles was a place that was held up as a success story in the fight against COVID. You'll remember that. Same thing with New York City. And what did the Democrat politicians in charge of those two places say was the result, or was the reason for the downward flow of cases? Masking, lockdowns, social distancing. What they did, what they made us do, was the great success story. That's what they told us. And we've been doing those things, continuing to mask, continue to social distance, living with all these rules and regulations for months now. And yet, they don't ever stop to think maybe what they've been telling us we have to do as a policy does not work. They're certainly not interested in finding out about the downsides of this, the problems that come from lockdowns, the losses that people incur as a result of it. The cities have shown no ability to control COVID-19 at this point. We are at the mercy of a virus. As individuals, we can take precautions, we can try to stay as healthy as we can, limit our risks. The government cannot protect you from this. That much should be clear. Lockdowns do not flatten the curve. That much should also be obvious at this point. It doesn't happen the way they say that it will. But what you certainly get with these closures, what you get with these policies, is the economic devastation. You have businesses that might be able to survive that don't, because they're not allowed to, because they're told by people in charge, sorry, you're not essential. Here's an activist at a rally that happened last night in Staten Island. I was speaking to people at the rally as it happened. It's right here in New York City where I'm doing this show. And here's what he was saying about what's going on with closures under lockdown orders in Staten Island. Play it.
This is a battle, people. I've been warning you, and finally you're out here. You business owners, I see your faces, how f***ing fed up you are. Yeah! You can go to Home Goods and buy a porcelain bunny for your f***ing mantle, but these guys can't sell a hamburger and a beer.
Keep in mind, when we talk about lockdown, even when they say cancel everything, in California right now, in Los Angeles, Garcetti says that podcasting is considered an essential activity. Hollywood stuff, they have a pass, because that's really important. But if you own a small business, if you run a store, sorry, you might just have to go bankrupt. That's what lockdown actually means. It's picking and choosing. It's not for everyone. And it's certainly not for the elites who pass the rules. The hypocrisy keeps compounding atop itself as we go through this. The mayor of Austin, Texas, flying down to Cabo on a private jet with 8 people, while he's telling the people of his city, back in Texas, back in the United States, because he was in Mexico, that they should stay in their homes. Don't go anywhere, don't travel. How much more of that do you have to see before you realize what a bunch of frauds these people are? It's not just in the major cities either. In central Michigan, a business owner came forward during a live news broadcast to give voice to the frustration that people are feeling in these states where we've all been obeying these mandates. We've been masking. We've been shutting down our businesses. For what benefit? We know what the drawbacks are. Here he is talking about how, this is Dave Morris, a restaurant owner in central Michigan, saying, the leadership class has just left us, abandoned us. Play it.
Our government leaders have abandoned me.
Are you the owner?
$4 trillion of stimulus money. They gave it to who? Special interest groups and campaign donors. I'm Dave Morris. I own the place.
So what's going on?
What's going on? You know what's going on.
Tell me. You tell me.
Hey, we got a government that has taken the stimulus money. They gave it to special campaign donors. They gave it to special interests. They abandoned me, and they have put me in a position where I have to fight back. Okay?
So do you feel that this is the right thing to do?
Absolutely. I feel everybody needs to stand up.
Everybody needs to stand up. And everybody needs to think for themselves and tend to their own health and their families. The cities cannot control this. The Democrat politicians that are writing books on leadership and giving bombastic speeches about how, yes, because you listen to me, we flatten the curve. Lies. It's just not true. And we're running an experiment right now in what else could be possible. If you match up Florida and New York, you have Governor Ron DeSantis, who is a Republican in Florida. Yes, this has become very political, unfortunately. And you have a Governor Cuomo in New York. New York has the worst death rate of any state per capita in the country. The only possible exception, maybe New Jersey. They're right next to each other. Both Democrat states, Governor Murphy in New Jersey. Ron DeSantis, however, has a state where there's no mask mandates, businesses are open, schools are open, and the caseload is right in line with New York. So what benefit does New York get from the shutdowns? What benefit does New York have from saying your business can open, your business must stay closed? This school will open this week, it'll be closed next week. How much more tyranny do you want to stomach for no change in caseload, New York? That's the question. Here's Ron DeSantis explaining why the lockdowns don't work.
A lot of these lockdowns have been very ineffective. They have huge negative consequences. And my view is that everybody's essential. Who is government to say that your job is not essential? I think it is essential. I think some of the stuff in March and April didn't work. I think you have to let people earn a living. And it's really not even government's role to say who could pick and choose. So we want everyone to have gainful employment. We want businesses to be able to operate. And I think that that's a better approach.
At least one governor holding the line for sanity. I'm a big-time coffee drinker, and Black Rifle is the coffee I'm drinking every day. Black Rifle Coffee was founded by a veteran who serves premium coffee to people who love America. That veteran is a CEO and a founder, Evan Hafer. He spent over 7 years on the ground overseas with the U.S. Special Forces. Evan even modified his gun trucks during the invasion of Iraq to grind coffee anywhere. For him, coffee's more than a business. It's his true passion. Through coffee, Evan was able to experience that perfect morning every morning, whether he was in Kabul or Seattle or anywhere. There's nothing better than starting your day with America's coffee. Go to blackriflecoffee.com/buck today and check out the best coffee in America. America's Coffee makes your holiday shopping easy with personalized bundles, gifted subscriptions to the coffee club, gift cards, and a whole lot of premium coffee, apparel, and gear. Make your holidays better with Black Rifle Coffee. That's blackriflecoffee.com/buck to get you 20% off coffee, apparel, and gear, as well as 20% off your first month of the Coffee Club. Welcome back. It looks like the presidential handoff has officially started. Joe Biden was formally given the green light by the chief of the GSA to begin a transition to the White House. But at the same time, President Trump is continuing his legal challenges to the November 3rd election. He's alleging widespread voter fraud. He tweeted out last night, "Oh, Trump, what does GSA being allowed to preliminarily work with the Dems have to do with continuing to pursue our various cases on what will go down as the most corrupt election in American political history? We are moving full speed ahead, never will concede to fake ballots and Dominion." So what exactly is going on here? Here to discuss is Megyn Kelly, legendary journalist, host of the Megyn Kelly Show podcast, which you should all subscribe to and check out for yourselves. Megyn, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, good to see you, Buck.
So there's a lot of people complaining and freaking out about what's happening right now with Trump. But so far, would you say it's fair? And I know you have a legal background as well as a journalism background. This is all within the process. Things are moving, perhaps not at the speed that everybody, or at least some people would like, but things are moving along. And it's fair to say, I would think, that dictators don't usually take things to court and accept the court's decision.
Here's how I feel. It ain't over till it's over. And privately, if I'm having drinks at a cocktail party with a friend and they say, what's the story? I say, it's probably over, right? It's probably over. But that's not the same as what's actually happening and what's responsible to say publicly in a reporting capacity. It isn't actually over. It's not. Trump's still got legal challenges pending. The states have not all certified their votes, and that's not going to happen until December 14th. And until then, what's the rush? Just calm down. It's good that he decided to cooperate with the GSA and Biden's team. Given the way the election looks now, there's no downside of doing that. Yes, it looks like Biden's going to be inaugurated as the next president on January 20th. What the hell's wrong with letting him kick the tires, pursue his legal challenges? It's not undermining the democracy. Sidney Powell's claims are extraordinary. They're different. But the sort of voter fraud, the laws weren't followed, they changed the laws in Philadelphia, those challenges, or Pennsylvania, are worth seeing through to the end.
And Megyn, we see a lot and hear a lot of what I think anybody would have to describe as hyperbolic analysis of this in the news media. Do you think it's fair to say, assuming, and I would agree with you, that the probability is certainly on the side of Joe Biden becoming the next president, but it is not over until it's over and the legal challenges should be exhausted. But it seems like journalists don't plan on going back to some older version of themselves, whether it was real or not, where they can report on things fairly, because here we are in a transition period, and they're still talking about Trump, the dictator who's responsible for killing 250,000 people. So under a Biden administration, are there really going to be calls for unity, and will the media magnify those, or go in the opposite direction?
I mean, wasn't it just last week that Christiane Amanpour compared Trump to Hitler?
Nazis, yeah.
Didn't we just learn you're not supposed to do that? Because it could really tick off 74 million people. They haven't learned anything. They really believe it. That's the thing. It's not like you're trying to stop them from saying something that's naughty, but their heart's not really in. They believe it. They think Trump is Hitler-esque. They think his followers are racists and bigots and all the ists that are on the bad list. So they're not going to stop. It's not going to be a unified country, nor should it be, because the two sides don't see eye to eye and they have real battles that are worth fighting. I'm sick of the focus on it. I was like, stop saying we're unified and we're going to be unified. We're not going to be. And the Democrats wouldn't be saying that if President Trump had won again, Oh,
yeah.
If Trump manages to pull out these legal challenges and somehow reverses this whole thing, think the cry for unity will stand? I don't think so.
Yeah, unity right now, at least from the journalists and the Democrat elite, is essentially, shut up, Trump supporters. We don't want to hear it. You better come along for the ride or else. I mean, we all see what it is.
Shut up or we'll put you on a list. In fact, you're probably already on it.
There are. I know. I've probably been put on a few lists at this point. Megyn, I also wanted to ask you about the cabinet picks that were rolled out today. We see, here's Biden talking about it. We can hear from him himself.
Together, these public servants will restore America globally, its global leadership, and its moral leadership, and will ensure that our service members, diplomats, and intelligence professionals can do their job free of politics.
They're all saying that these are the experts, these are the top of the line folks. What do you think?
I think it's returned to the status quo that we had before Trump. A lot of Obama guys. It's no one that's going to sort of buck any systems or break any China whatsoever. And I think that's a loss for the people who put Trump in office. I don't think they wanted status quo. I think they wanted somebody, something to be shaken up, and they're not going to get it. And it's unfortunate because, the people in middle America who felt ignored for so long, who put Trump in office and who voted for him again, they're going right back to where they used to go. Biden, forgive my confusion, he's already going back to the old policies. He's already said he's going to re-implement regulations that are meant to protect the environment, but really are just going to crush manufacturing in the Rust Belt, right? He's going to re-implement critical race theory mandated training sessions at the federal level, which Trump undid. I think what we're going to see is in a way, a lot of what Trump did to Obama, which is an unraveling of the previous administration's agenda item by item. And while that may feel good for the Biden supporters, I think it'll have real impact on the election we're going to have in 2 years.
It certainly also seems like there's a big shift that could occur here in the approach that a future Biden administration would take based upon whether they have unified government or not. Control of the Senate still hangs in the balance. We've got 762,000 absentee ballots have already been requested in Georgia, 3 times the number of requests made in the 2018 elections, according to election officials there. So we're starting to see, Megyn, there's going to be a tremendous focus on this because, well, let me ask you, if, let's say, the Democrats are able to pull off these 2 Senate seats, they win these 2 Senate seats, so they will have a majority in the Senate. If they're able to do that, do you think that this allegedly centrist Biden administration that would be kind of a replay of some Democrat party that I think never really existed, but this is what the media is saying, would they stick to that script? Or all of a sudden is it, oh, okay, now it's our way, and you start hearing a lot more in terms of policies that would line up with more of what the squad would say?
I mean, I'd love to believe that Biden is a moderate. You know, I'm more in the center than I am an extremist on the right or certainly on the left. I'd love to think the guy's going to be a moderate. So far, I don't see it. He's going to get rid of the oil and gas industry. Critical race theory is coming back. He's already saying he's going to wipe out due process for men accused on college campuses. I mean, like the first couple of things he said he's going to do don't sound very centrist to me. So I think people need to be very cautious about how these Georgia races are going to go. I realize no Republican has ever lost a runoff in the state of Georgia, but Georgia's never looked like it looks right now in terms of its voter turnout or in terms of the stakes, right? The Democrats are going to pour every single dollar they have into trying to get these 2 seats. And, you know, at least one of the candidates down there is not particularly popular. So, you know, the Republicans, I know they're focused on the Trump fight right now. And there's a real question about where is it smart to place your energy, your money, and, your time. What's going to matter? Because if we have undivided government, Biden in the White House and the Dems control the House and the Senate, that's how we got Obamacare, right? Like now you're talking about possible major reforms. And as much as Joe Biden said this or that or the other thing when he was running, seems already to be governing in a different way. And who knows? They start thinking about their legacy when they get in there. And the next thing you know, 1/6 of the economy has been turned around without majority support.
It's been fascinating to me, Megyn, to watch so many in the journalistic establishment talk about how Trump is a fascist who specifically destroys the First Amendment for 4 years, when all the people saying that have become more prominent, more famous, probably richer, better known for attacking this alleged fascist, which is not, I know quite a bit of history in this regard. It's not how it works out in real fascist countries. The press, you don't get elevated when you attack the dictator, right? So this is all Trump derangement syndrome nonsense. But if we do go into a Biden administration, there will be 95% or so of journalists who effectively feel like they're playing for the home team now. They're going to do everything they can to support this, to advocate for this, to limit, to stifle criticism out there. But yet we have these new platforms coming out. We have shows like yours, the Megyn Kelly Show. What do you view your role as now an independent media brand, and also some of these new platforms that are coming out like Parler and Rumble and these other areas that don't have legacy media control? What do they look like in a Biden administration? What are you going to try to do?
Well, I think the difference between me and most of those, legacy media operations is I don't have Trump derangement syndrome, and I have an affinity only for one thing, and that's the truth. My fealties to the truth, to my audience, which are the same, right? And I think that allows me to report on anybody fairly. I've been reporting on Trump fairly. I'll report on Biden fairly. But I also happen to understand the right half of the country in a way 99% of the journalists out there either don't or don't care to. So it's a real gift in covering the news because you can see the derangement syndrome. Before there was Trump derangement syndrome, there was Bush derangement syndrome. It's like most of the media hates conservatives, and they're going to report the news with those lenses on. And if you happen to have the gift of not wearing those lenses, I think you can see truth. I'm able to see when Trump does something controversial or, quote, bad. I can report on that easily, and I can certainly do the same for Biden. But I think, the difference is you look at Fox, for example, they're going to defend Trump, and they're going to go after Biden for the most part. But in their defense, they'll be the only one on news and on the television doing that. all the other media will be doing the other stuff. The print media, the television, the broadcast, the cable. The democracy dies in darkness, motto of the Washington Post, that's going to go away real fast. It's going to be, well, the light came out. What do you mean? We're good. We don't need any deep investigations. It's shiny now.
It's all going to be one big utopia for the media until we have some big problems, and then they're going to have to be playing defense for a guy who's almost 80 years old that had failed to become president for almost as long as I've been alive. So we'll see how that shakes out for them. He's been doing this for quite a while, but everyone should check out Megyn Kelly's show, the podcast that's out. Megyn, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you as always. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
These days, being prepared for the unknown is more important than ever. I'm sure you've noticed the world we live in is anything but predictable. We could all benefit from something reliable right about now. What could be more reliable than real gold and silver? I'm talking about real gold and silver you can actually hold right in your hands. Call the Oxford Gold Group now. Learn how easy it is to get real gold and silver sent securely directly to your home, or how you can have real gold and silver placed in your IRA or 401k. Just call the Oxford Gold Group at 833-600-GOLD and ask for your free guide on owning gold and silver. Again, call the Oxford Gold Group right now, 833-600-GOLD. The Oxford Gold Group is the only gold company I trust. Call them right now at 833-600-GOLD. Don't wait for inflation to kick in. Don't wait to see what the economy does and what happens to the dollars in your bank account. You think the national debt's going to go away? No, it's only going to get bigger. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the Fed. Go take action today. Diversify, protect yourself with gold. 833-600-GOLD. Stay indoors, wear a mask, stop the spread. Those are the talking points that have been jammed down our throats for months. And for the most part, we've listened. Masks are now ubiquitous. People are socially distancing from their own families at Thanksgiving. We've destroyed the entire hospitality industry. Everything that people have been told to do, they've pretty much been doing. So naturally, we'd expect the same from our elected leaders, right? Wrong! Those same elected officials who seem to conceive of a new rule every 5 seconds to control our lives, they're enormous hypocrites who refuse to follow them themselves. Time after time, we've caught them red-handed. Even when caught disobeying their own dictates, though, they're shameless and unapologetic. Thankfully, our friends over at The Daily Caller have compiled a list of all these instances of hypocrisy. Let's examine the most notable of them on today's Buck Brief. I got to tell you, I get excited about this one because nothing shows you the liberal mentality more clearly than the very leaders who not only tell you, spread the good word about how you got to mask up, don't see your family, don't do Thanksgiving, don't eat indoors, all this stuff you hear all the time, right? The reason for the little foot markings in my elevator in my home in New York, right, the building I live in with a lot of other folks, because of the people that are making these mandates. So you'd think that they would also want to obey them, but you'd be wrong. They're libs. They're hypocrites. It's about what you do because they say so, not about what they do. So many great examples of this. Let's start with, D.C.'s Muriel Bowser. She's the mayor of Washington, D.C., and back in November of this year, November 9th, she traveled to high-risk Delaware for the Biden victory speech, despite her own mandate that if you do that, you're going to have to come back and quarantine for 2 weeks. By the way, that's not the only time she's done that. She also waived the mandate for D.C. for all the folks who went to John Lewis's funeral in Georgia when Georgia was having a big surge. You're supposed to come back to D.C., 2 weeks of quarantine. If you don't quarantine for 2 weeks, you're a monster who could be murdering people by breathing on them. That's what we were told. Oh, so Mayor Bowser just waived that one for all those Democrats that wanted to go to the John Lewis funeral in Georgia. His funeral is important. If you've unfortunately lost a loved one during this period of COVID for any reason, not as important according to the people in charge. That's what they're telling you. Lori Lightfoot, the mayor, a lot of mayors getting attention here. Mayor of Chicago, she told people to cancel their traditional Thanksgiving plans, but she was out in the streets celebrating with people. Her mask pulled down there. She was celebrating when Biden was declared the winner by the national news media. That was a good one. Oh, it keeps going. This is just like a hit parade. We got more and more. This is like the greatest hits of Democrat hypocrisy. Nancy Pelosi, among my favorites to point out for hypocrisy and other things. She got her hair done in a shuttered San Francisco salon. Remember this one? And she was somebody who was out there telling you, make sure you don't continue to spread. You know, she was out there telling everybody, you can't do this. You can't get your hair cut. But Nancy's hair, really important. Got to get those highlights. Got to make sure it looks good on MSNBC and CNN. So there was Nancy. Maybe my favorite of all, Gavin Newsom, who's just so smooth, so slick. I mean, this guy, sure, you could always trust Gavin Newsom. After he was putting forward and enforcing a statewide mandate on restaurants, indoor dining, not allowed, Gavin Newsom was at the French Laundry, a place where you and I would have to wait probably 6 months to get a reservation. Trust me, I know, I tried a long time ago. And he was there with a whole bunch of friends, indoor dining. Are these people worried about being mass murderers? Because that's what we're told. If you don't do what they say, you're killing grandma. But they don't have to worry about it. Oh, interesting. The mayor of Philadelphia, I just learned this one today, dined indoors in Maryland on Sunday, and this was back in August. Widely circulated photograph, indoor dining prohibited until September 8th. So he was able to dine indoors. I mean, we just go on and on here. Governor Ralph Northam caught without a mask at Virginia Beach. You know, he's Mr. Mask Up, but he wasn't masked up at Virginia Beach. Bill de Blasio goes to the gym before Cuomo shuts them all down. You know, get in that last 7 minutes of really serious exercise in the elliptical, Bill de Blasio, better known as Warren Wilhelm. That was his name in case you didn't know that before he changed it. Yeah, fun fact. So all these people, and we can just go, I can't even get to all of them. We got the governor of Oregon, we got Governor Cuomo, we got the Denver mayor, we got the San Francisco mayor, bing, bang, boom, so many of them. Frauds. Shouldn't they be held to an even higher standard? If they're taking away your freedom, if they're shutting down your restaurant, your business, or telling you you can't even see your family members in your own home, shouldn't they at least be willing to set a good example? It's not forever, right? It's not that big an imposition. They tell us, wear your mask, social distance. Except they don't want to do those things. Because clearly, at some level, they understand that for any individual to be forced to act by the state like there's some vector of plague all the time is insane. And that's what they've done to all of us. They'll even say it now, act like you have COVID if you traveled over the Thanksgiving holiday. Crazy, unscientific, irrational stuff. And they know it, which is why they take the actions they do, but they love the power, and they like the optics, as they say in DC, of taking COVID so seriously. You get to take it seriously because they say so. They, no. Different set of rules for them. Rules, you see, just ask Nancy Pelosi. They're for the little people. Economic uncertainty has left us all wondering about the future. Stock market seems to blow back and forth like the winds of political change. So what do we do to protect ourselves and our income for the future? For over a decade now, simple and conservative real estate investing has been the retirement answer for thousands of done-for-you real estate clients. It's now part of my answer to retirement. I'm not just a believer in what done-for-you real estate does, I'm also a client. I recently closed on my first ever investment property, all through my friends at Done4You Real Estate. Their system flat out works. Done4You Real Estate found me an amazing property, got me the financing, got it all fixed up, and are now renting it out and managing it for me. They're an award-winning, groundbreaking company with 13 years of experience that allows everyday, hardworking Americans to finally own investment real estate without all the risk and difficulty of doing it on your own. Visit doneforyoubuck.com to learn more and find out if you qualify to take advantage of what may be a once-in-a-generation opportunity to finally own your own investment real estate. Communist China continues its campaign of aggression in its quest to unseat the U.S. as the world's sole superpower. Whether it's TikTok stealing Americans' data or their manipulation of currency, unfair trade practices, and even encouraging domestic unrest, there's no low that Beijing doesn't seem like it's willing to stoop to in order to undermine our nation's future. To discuss all this and more, I'm joined by the author of The Coming Collapse of China, Gordon Chang, also author of The Great U.S.-China Tech War. Gordon, So good to see you.
Thank you so much, Buck.
So there's a lot here, Gordon, but let's start with election interference, because we heard so much about that with regard to Russia starting in 2016. Really, after Hillary lost the 2016 election is when we started hearing a lot about it. But you've been raising alarms about how China was trying to influence this most recent election. Please tell us what you've got.
Well, first of all, the Chinese Foreign Ministry and the Communist Party's Global Times engaged in malicious disinformation campaigns all through this year. And they were directed to unseating President Trump. But there were also the underground troll farms, the bots, and they were working against the president as well. So, for instance, Spamouflage Dragon, which is a large network that was active on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, was going after the president. We know that China's operations were large. Twitter, for instance, took down 174,000 fake Chinese accounts in 1 month. The New York Times reported about text messages and social media feeds spreading rumors that China knew was false about coronavirus. Didn't put the president in a good light. So there is a lot that Beijing did this year to make sure that the president did not get reelected.
Now, Gordon, people are also looking at the timeline. You mentioned COVID and what China knew and what it was telling the rest of the world. Can you just tell everyone watching this right now, what were some of the steps that they took that showed a disregard for the rest of the world's safety in the early days of the pandemic? And then I want to ask you about how China's doing with it now. But first, let's go back to the beginning.
Well, there were three things. First of all, China lied about the contagiousness of the disease. China pressured countries to accept arrivals from China. And then China downplayed the severity of the disease. Beijing admitted for the first time that the coronavirus was contagious on January 20. But doctors in Wuhan, the epicenter, knew no later than the second week of December, and they may have even known in August, as a Harvard Medical School study suggests. Now, if China had said nothing during this time, that would have been grossly irresponsible. But the Chinese tried to convince the world that it was not readily transmissible from one human to the next. So this was active deception. And at the same time, Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler, pressured countries to not impose travel restrictions and quarantines on arrivals from China when he was imposing these same measures internally. So he knew these measures were effective, and yet he was forcing them to accept passengers from China who spread the disease. So, Buck, this was an intentional spreading of the coronavirus beyond China's borders. That meant China wanted people to be infected and to die, and that is murderous.
Now, Gordon, you've said before that China's acts here were obviously beyond the pale, and also when you add this to what they've done here, what you've laid out in terms of election interference, do you view these as what could be considered acts of war?
Killing 278,000 Americans as of today strikes me as an act of war. But there were other ones as well. So, for instance, Radio Free Asia is reporting that an intelligence unit of the People's Liberation Army based themselves in the now closed Houston consulate. And from there, they used big data and artificial intelligence to identify Americans likely to participate in riots, specifically what we saw this spring. And then the Chinese military sent out through TikTok videos on how to riot. So this was more than just subversion, Buck. This was an act of war.
And Gordon, you mentioned TikTok. We had heard from the president that there was going to be some kind of a forced sale. I mean, back in July, CNN, TikTok is a national security threat, U.S. politicians say. CNN had this piece. And we were told that there was going to be a sale to an American company. Where does that stand? This kind of fell off the headlines.
Well, on December 14th, there's a hearing in federal court about President Trump's forced divestiture of TikTok. But federal district judges have stayed his order. He's trying to arrange a sale, perhaps to Oracle, maybe to Walmart, some sort of combination of that. But China has acted to block that by new regulations on the export of technology. And TikTok has a lot of technology covered by those new rules. So this is one area where the president's efforts have been failing. what the president should have done early on is, instead of trying to arrange a sale, he just should have banned it. And that would have been much cleaner, and he would have had stronger legal arguments. Now, this drama is not over, but the president does not seem to be winning this one.
Gordon, the president's got his plate full these days with a lot of things. Tell me this, how is China doing right now with COVID-19? Because we see U.S. cases all-time high for deaths. Europe is having the same problems we are, so it's clearly not just an America thing. This has hit the Western world very hard. China, it seems like they're going back to normal more than we are, or is that just propaganda? What's happening?
Well, I think that they're more back to normal than we are, but probably they are hiding cases, and a substantial number of them. In January 26th, the Communist Party appointed its task force on the coronavirus, and the 9-person roster had only one public health official. The rest of them were propaganda workers, as China calls them, or party hacks, which shows you the priorities of the Communist Party on this. That was to control the narrative. So I think that we are seeing outbreaks of cases in China. They're probably more severe, much more severe than Beijing is talking about. But yeah, I mean, they don't have as bad a time of it now as we do.
And what are your thoughts about the possibility of a Biden administration here and its shift, its pivot on China? What do you think that will mean? How do you think the Chinese Communist Party will view that?
Well, I think that they're happy that the outcome of November 3, or at least the apparent outcome. One thing we know, regardless of what Joe Biden himself thinks about China, every new occupant of the White House gives China a grace period. Every administration thinks that it can do better than the predecessor. Now, that Trump did. Trump gave them about a 14-month grace period. The difference between 2017 and 2021, however, is that now we don't have a moment to lose, because China's attacks have become more malicious, certainly unrelenting. And so right now we're at great peril, because although Americans don't realize this, our republic is at risk. And we're in an existential conflict with China where there's only going to be one survivor. It's either going to be the People's Republic of China or the United States of America, not both. China last year declared a quote unquote people's war on us. They consider us an enemy, and they are willing to kill us. So this is important for us to understand the fundamental nature of this challenge.
To follow more of Gordon's analysis, you can see him on Twitter, Gordon G. Chang. Also pick up his latest booklet, The Great U.S.-China Tech War. Gordon, always good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Buck.
Fellow patriots, MAGA CBD is a revolutionary American-made product that is safe for work, THC-free, and features patented NASA technology. So it's the highest quality CBD oil you can get on the market. They're dedicated to providing the purest, most effective products anywhere. MAGA CBD provides third-party testing results from industry-leading experts. They prove what they're saying. MAGA CBD is 100% committed to customer satisfaction and product quality. Best of all, 10% of proceeds benefit veterans and first responders. Look, MAGA CBD has helped me sleep through the night, something that I've struggled with a lot in the past. And when you taste the difference with their apple pie flavored oil, you'll realize this is the best CBD you're going to get anywhere. Plus, what CBD product in the market could be more American? MAGA, NASA, apple pie. It's America at its finest. For your CBD needs, look no further than MAGA CBD. Learn more and order today at MAGACBD.org and save 10% with promo code BUCK. That's MAGACBD, Charlie Bravo Delta.org, promo code BUCK. Oh yes, we got to add another Democrat to the Hypocrite Hall of Fame. AOC cashes in on class warfare, and a star is born in Michigan. Line up those clay pigeons. It's time for some buckshot. Now, remember, the leadership class, particularly Democrats, they don't want you traveling, they don't want you seeing your family, they don't want you living your life, because if you try, you're going to die or you're going to kill a lot of other people. That's what they tell you. But then they don't act that way, do they? We have this long list: Gavin Newsom, Lori Lightfoot, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, Governor Cuomo, Mayor de Blasio. You have this long list this long list. And yet we have to add another name to it. The mayor of Austin, very liberal place, apparently great food, but bad liberal policies. The mayor of Austin, Steve Adler, went down to Mexico and told people in his town, where he's the mayor, stay where you are, don't go anywhere. But he flew private down to Cabo San Lucas. Here's what he had to say. Play it.
Afterwards, a small, mostly family group traveled to Mexico. I want you to know that I regret that travel. I recognize that my travel set a bad example. I recognize that the fact that I took that trip and at the same time was continuing to urge people to be cautious is confusing.
Oh, confusing is one word for it. That's right. Send the peasants, while you're at the hacienda, send the peasants back in the United States your social media reminders about how they need to be terrified and shelter in place. Really, really a classy move. You gotta love that. Classy and then sassy. One of the most memorable moments in the very serious Michigan hearings about voter fraud, but this one got a little bit humorous for a second here. I've never seen this lady before, but I think we should all see more of her because she's got some spunk. The star witness of the Michigan hearings presented to you.
The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by 30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000. That poll book, why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So my question then is if the...
Guess how many, wait, what about the turnout rate? 120%?
120%. She was sassy. Great stuff. Honestly, one of the best things I've seen on the internet all week. But another great thing today. AOC, best known for being a Marxist who grew up in an upper middle class suburb of New York City known as Westchester, but pretends to be from the Bronx. She is out there now with a merch store, and she's selling a Tax the Rich sweatshirt for, is it $58 or $68? I don't know. $58. Oh my. Now, I understand that that's maybe the going rate for a designer sweatshirt these days. I have no idea. I like stuff that's old and has holes in it, but nonetheless, tax the rich in your $60 roughly sweatshirt. And then one thing that's kind of funny and sad, emotional support animals. I've always thought it'd be fun to fly Delta with a koala or perhaps hop on United with my peacock. Turns out that you're not going to be able to do that as much anymore. The Transportation Administration or Department of Transportation rather, has said that emotional support animals like a horse, a turkey, a peacock, a pig, I mean, it's so cute though. Don't you want to ride with Wilbur there or, I don't know, Porky or whatever his name is? I mean, and then you got the peacock and beautiful creatures, majestic, flowing robes. So yeah, good things. It turns out you can't actually do that anymore though because it has to be a trained dog and the airlines are going to start cracking down on this. So if you haven't gotten your emotional support pony to ride with you in coach just yet, time's running out. That's it for Hold the Line. No Spin News with Bill O'Reilly is up next. You got to stay for that. Have a great night and shields high.